Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Like a Street Photography Collective. I'm Ricky, and today's guest is Nadia. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, giving the listeners something to listen to. I appreciate it. They appreciate it. And I do want to say really quick before we get into Nadia's introduction, I apologize for a long break, I guess you could say. It's been a while since I recorded one of these one-on-one conversations with, excuse me, photographers from around the world. And it's something I like to revisit and get back into. I really enjoyed them, and the listeners did too. So, Nadia, if you do not mind, please introduce yourself, where you're at, where you've been, what you do, anything you'd like the world to know.
Hi, Ricky. Hi, everybody. I'm Nadia Morganistik. I am a French-Moroccan photographer. So I come from France. I currently live in Berlin, Germany, but I'm about to move to London in England. And yeah, been a photographer since I was a child, I would say.
All right. So from France, live in Germany, and moving to the UK soon. So I don't think I've been to that particular part in Germany, but I have visited there about 4 times. And it's a place that I would love, or country really, I would love to revisit. Really want to try to focus a lot like in the Berlin area to kind of photograph things that I wish I had the opportunity when I was there. It was a short trip, so I didn't get a chance, but I would like to focus some photography time in Berlin. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Berlin is very special because everything has been rebuilt since the war. So you don't have much classical buildings. The few that are left, you can see the history on them. You can see the scars of the war. You can see really the past in the street as you walk. So when you go there to take pictures, it's amazing because they're still rebuilding today. They're still on the aftermath of the Second World War, and it's still very much present there somehow. So it's a very, very special place on earth. It teaches you a lot about life and anything. And it's a very photogenic city. It's very weird because it's very new. But you have so much things to take, and there's a lot of street art. If you're into street art, there's a lot of everything that is a bit different from any other city that you know. So it's quite interesting to go there with a camera and just walk and meet people, and I'm not much into chit chat, but it's funny to meet. You often see some photographers, obviously. So
when I was there, one thing that I noticed, and I think it was kind of like remembrance, kind of like a memorial for history, I would say. I was probably there in 2018, and it was very, I don't know what it looks like now, but it was very kind of like resemblance to post-war, I guess it's safe to say. And maybe it was kept like that intentionally, but it'd be good to see the city rebuilt, more modern and cleaned up.
It will never be cleaned up. That's Berlin. That's how it looks like. It's very weird. It was quite a shock for me when I moved there, because I moved from Paris, where everything is beautiful and it feels like you're in a movie and you have all the classical buildings, and then you arrive in Berlin and everything is looking a bit trash, but that's how Berlin looks like.
Yeah.
You have to get used to it somehow, and it took me like a couple of years to start to enjoy it. In the beginning, I was like, oh, no, I can't. Like, other buildings have those pale pastel colors on them. And you have the buildings in the Soviet architecture style, which are interesting. And then the rest, I had hard time to get into it. But then I started to really enjoy it. And now when I see a city where everything is clean, I feel it's weird. somehow. But they do, to bounce back on what you just said, they do keep the memory alive about everything. They make sure that we never remember what war does and what it did to the people and what it's still doing today, 60, 70 years later.
Yeah.
It's very fresh, like even they keep pieces of the Berlin Wall and they remember us that the last person who tried to cross was in the 90s. And that's quite recent for us, it's not that far.
Yeah. And
we have to remember not to divide cities, not to divide countries, not to divide people, and we have to be united. So it's a good life lesson to visit this place.
Yeah. It's good to have those kind of reminders of history. But so you mentioned you started photography at a very young age. Why don't you kind of share with us your experience, how you started photography, kind of like your journey?
Yeah. So I guess a lot of photographers start like this when their parents put a camera in their hand and say, hey, take this picture of the family. So both my parents were very much into photography. My mom, she had an automatic camera, and my dad, he had an SLR. And since I was a kid, they always put their camera when we were traveling or having any family event. We were taking lots of photographs all the time, like taking photographs to commemorate and to remember everything. Growing up, going to my dance class, doing whatever, we were always taking pictures. So a picture that I took when I was a little child, I remember. And for me, everything we did, we had to record it and to then print the pictures and then watch the pictures together. So I have memories of me as a kid sitting in the hall with my dad looking at those old photo albums and see how photography was important for us and precious. And I always had a camera in my hand somehow. Then when I was 14, I started to get into electronic music. I started to go to some rave parties organized in the fields or the warehouses around my area in France. And I started to borrow my mom's camera. So it was a little automatic camera with a flash. And I started to take pictures of DJs without her knowing. So I would borrow her camera. I took pictures of the DJs. And then she went to the shop and developed the photos. And then she found pictures of DJs in her photos. And she was asking me, what's this? Yeah. I said, well, I went to this party last weekend. And then those photos, next time when I met the DJs again, I would give them the photos. It was printed photos. It was analog back then. And from there, I started to get published in some magazines when I was 16, 17 years old, some techno magazines. And from there, I started to do some interviews with some DJs and a little local radio show. But yeah, I always took pictures of DJs every time I went to party. And every time I made a bit of money, I would travel in Europe to go see some DJs. And I arrived by the security and I told them, hey, I travel on my own. I have a camera. Can I go on stage for 1 second, take a picture, and then I come down? And back then, because it was the 90s, the security guys, they let me go on stage. And I took pictures of DJs and then come down. And sometimes I didn't come down. Sometimes I just sneak in backstage and made friends with all the DJs. And then the time after, when I did that again, I gave them the photographs. And that's how I started my career as a photographer, pretty much.
Yeah. It's kind of very similar to street photographers, right? They kind of sneak in and we got to take the picture. So we do different things. But that's really interesting. You started off kind of photographing the DJs and kind of, you said been published at 16. I think that I'm going to give you the award for youngest published photographer that I've spoken to. So that's really interesting. What was that like?
Well, it was crazy because it was magazines I used to collect, and I really love them. And then I suddenly found my photographs in there and started to work for them. So yeah, that was quite nice and impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I also got my first photo stolen back then.
Oh,
like some DJ who used my photo for
without permission,
record artwork, without permission, without credit, without anything. Yeah. So yeah, I learned quite young how to protect my photographs.
Did you sue him, get your money?
No, but I had a lawyer quite young because of that. Mm-hmm. Who was a friend of mine, also a raver, and he told me what to do they had to repress the CDs, the thousands of CDs they did without my credit. They had to repress them.
Okay. So have you had a career, like an official job / business in photography?
So later in life, for me, my background, I did a business school, so I always worked in business, but I always had photography as a side passion.
Okay.
And then, excuse me 1 second, I need to drink a bit. Mm-hmm. All right. In what year was it? 2011, I became a fashion photographer at Paris Fashion Week.
Okay.
Where I was shooting runway and backstage and showrooms with the fashion designers.
What's that like? Like you're in the official buildings that they had these events?
Yeah. Okay, 1 second. My throat is a bit. I need to drink a bit. 1 second. Yeah. So this was also a funny story. It was a friend of mine who was a stylist from Australia. Her photographer could not come at the last minute. And she told me, hey, Fashion Week is starting next week. I'm looking for a photographer. Would you like to do this? And I said, okay, yeah, let's go. Mm-hmm. I didn't know anything about fashion. And I started straight away. I bought a full-frame SLR. And I didn't know how to use it. So all my first pictures were absolutely blurry and not good and not technically good. But the magazine I worked for, they really liked them. They found them arty somehow. Mm-hmm. So it was a motion blur, not on purpose, but they liked them somehow. So yeah, I started like this. And 6 months later, I was in British Vogue and Vogue Italia. So I went up quite quick with that.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy experience, quite fast-paced with all the creation, all the collections every 6 months. Mm-hmm. So I did menswear, womenswear, and couture. Couture was quite impressive because it's not many guests, not many photographers.
Yeah.
And
I think you won a second award for first person that I've spoken to be published in Vogue, British and Italy. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That is a major accomplishment. Vogue is a pretty in size compared as a rather large publication. So like,
yeah. It was just for the online versions, and then I worked several times for them. But yeah, it's a big name. It's a big name. It opened some doors.
Okay. So you're racking up the awards here. It's 2 in 1 episode. So congratulations. What would you say is probably like the biggest lesson that you've learned working with these companies?
That is a good question. I would say, my philosophy before is stay humble. You're just a photographer. You're not
Mhm.
the star of the show. You're just there to document what's being made.
Yeah.
And the people you photograph are the star of the show, or can be, I don't mean people as famous people, like anyone that you photograph or anything that you photograph is the star of the show. And we should always stay humble as photographers, I think.
Yeah. I actually do agree. And I like that you said that, staying humble. Funny, kind of along the same lines, there was someone on Instagram. He posted some really good content, kind of like around businessy kind of people trying to establish their own photography business. And he did like a post about people's egos. And I kind of agreed with him and on how he was approaching the subject and the topic. Basically, just a short kind of recap on the story. Someone posted a photo and, they're like, oh, I spent like 12 hours on this photo shoot, and they posted it. And then like instantly people just started kind of like talking, like saying bad things about it. They're like, oh, you're not good. You spent 12 hours and it's a horrible photo. And basically the person was like, these are people that are just like, they're caught in their egos, and their ego is bigger than they are. Like the person who posted the photo, he didn't ask for like constructive criticism. He was just sharing with the world something that he created. And then I kind of this is where I started to agree with him. I was like, well, yeah, like he makes a lot of sense, because like the person, like maybe that's the outcome that they wanted, right? Maybe they didn't want to get something where it's like super cleaned up and polished. And honestly, when I seen the photo, there was nothing wrong with the image, but I guess people in their egos, they just kind of got carried away and they started saying bad things about it. And there was some exchanges. But ultimately, I kind of agree with that. Like when people post their work and then people have negative comments to say, it's kind of like bad ego. They're not humble. The humility is not there. What do you feel about something like that?
Yeah, we're just the photographers. That's pretty it, like in fashion, I saw a lot of photographers who think they are something because of who they photograph. But you can photograph a celebrity or anyone in the street. It doesn't matter who you photograph. You have to respect everybody the same way. And know your place as a photographer. You're just the witness, and you should be invisible. I think like a ninja in the corner, and not disturb everybody, and not be loud, and be respectful of really everybody. And that's, I think, how I went up in the fashion world quite quick, because I was respecting everybody the same way. And in the fashion world, people are not always like that. They tend to see a hierarchy between the people and respect some people more. While me, if I spoke to the designer or to the security guy or to anyone working there, I would speak to them the same. I didn't care. And that's how I am in life, and that's how I was on that job. So because of that, I got access to some backstage quite quick, because I was being, I guess, respectful. And I went there faster than some older photographers. So I guess it works.
I was going to ask a controversial question in kind of like the fashion industry. Have you ever encountered photographers who, no matter what they shoot, they always just feel like their photos and their images are the best and no one's better than them?
Yeah, so in fashion, there is this unspoken rule, I would say, like sort of hierarchy. The oldest photographers are the most respected, because they've been doing this job for 20 years, and then the ones who arrive later have to learn and be seated lower. So the way you place yourself on a runway depends on that. The oldest photographer are in the center of the photo pit, And then the oldest are usually in the back, and the youngest are sitting on the floor. So when I arrived, I was sitting on the floor. It was funny actually in the beginning. Okay, I will talk a bit about sexism in the photography industry.
Yeah.
The first days I worked there, there were some photographers. They were kicking me in the back with their monopods, and they were telling me, "What are you doing here? You can't stay here." Because I was a girl, I was quite young, and just being a girl with a big camera. And they thought I was just a blogger or someone who was not seriously into photography, and that I got there because I knew somebody, and they were telling me, "Yeah, I have to work at the next show. You can't sit there." I was like, "What do you mean? I also work at the next show and the next show and the next show." And then it's like 8 shows per day for 1 week. It's quite a physical and exhausting work. But yeah, in the beginning, I had some aggressive reactions, I would say. And it took me maybe 4 or 6 months for them to talk to me and to start to trust me. So some of them, not all of them, but they didn't believe that a girl could take photographs, so they would explain me how my own camera worked, you know? They would explain me about shutter speed and white balance and everything. And it was not like teaching you, mentoring you. It was like telling me, like mansplaining me my own camera that I already knew how to use. And they were asking me, like, "Do you shoot in manual?" You know, like, they were testing me, like. So I guess it was part of the
initiation
of the process. Yeah, for them to accept me as one of them. And some of them, they saw that I was at every show for 1 week, and they started to talk to me because they were like, "Okay, she's serious about it. She's not just on one show." But some of them, it really took them. And some of them, they only started to talk to me once I was in book. It was like, for them, it was, they were like, "Okay, she's one of us now." But it took a bit of time, and it was an interesting experience because out of 100 photographers, we were maybe 5 or 10 girls. So that was quite representative and an interesting experience. And also, those same photographers who were quite aggressive in the beginning, they only talk to you depending on the gear that you have. So if you have a full frame or not, if you have a full frame, they will talk to you. If you don't have a full frame, they won't talk to you. And the lens, you have to have a professional lens, obviously, otherwise they won't talk to you.
Is that something that they still do? And I only say that now because, excuse me, camera technology has come so far where I would say kind of like in the early 2010s, you needed a full frame to get like certain looks in the images. But now with all the technology, like crop sensors are performing to the standard of a full frame. It's just cheaper and smaller. And one brand that comes to mind is Fujifilm with their smaller cameras, but they're very professional grade. So is that something that they still kind of like practice if your camera is in like full frame or I guess professional quality? They just kind of like look the other way?
I don't know. I don't know if they still do it because I only worked 2 years.
Okay.
Actually, a bit more because I still did some shows here and there. I went to work at Barcelona Fashion Week recently, but I don't know if they still do it. I can't answer that. I remember it was the war back then between it was Nikon and Canon. So it was like this little cold war between us, between who has best camera and who has the biggest lens and who has. But besides that, it was not really, mirrorless were not a thing in fashion. When you just need that. The thing about working on a runway is you can't shoot raw and you have to know what you're doing and you have to get the photo right because you don't have the time to edit the photo. So you take, let's say 1,000 to 2,000 photos per day.
Whoa.
And then, and then after the end of the last show, you have 2 hours to send the photos to your magazine. So that means the photos, you have to take them already well taken. You have to have the right shutter aperture, obviously, but then you have to have the right temperature because every show has different lights.
Yeah.
And you need to have a precise white balance to show the clothes the most accurately possible. So that was the most technical and challenge thing to do. And where was I going with that? So yeah, the thing is you don't have the time to take a bad picture. You have to be a good photographer there. And then what happens is the fashion shows are just 10 minutes. And every model is probably walking 10 seconds. And during those 10 seconds, they are just in the right light for maybe 2 to 3 seconds.
Yes.
And during those 2 to 3 seconds, you have to take the right shape of leg, the way they walk. So, for example, you can't take a picture of a sole when they're walking. You have to, so.
There's a lot of rules that I don't think many people are familiar with. If I never spoke to you now, I probably just think people just kind of sit at the end of the runway and they just, what is it, full auto, just hold the shutter down and they're getting something?
Oh, no. No, we arrive like half an hour before every show. So there's one show every hour in a different location. So you have to go in Paris by metro with all your camera gear and everything. So it's monopod, camera, a couple of lenses. Ideally, you carry 2 cameras because you don't have the time to change the lenses. Then depending on what you shoot, runway is like spot photography. Just 10 minutes of show. And during those 10 minutes, you can't miss any look. And while you shoot the looks, you also have to do details. So you have to zoom very quick. You have to take the full silhouette. And then if you can take very quick the shoes or the bags or the makeup. It's very, very quick. And you have to know what you're doing. Like, there's no messing up like I did at my first shows. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know where to place myself. I put myself in the side. I didn't know that I had to be at the end of the runway to get the models working towards me. But then it was interesting. There was this one Italian photographer who was he was working for Runway, and he sort of took me under his wing to tell me. Once he saw I was serious, he was one of the old photographers, and he started to help me to get better placement in the photo pit. And then he started to guide me a bit about the white balance. He was like, okay, you have to do your white balance. I mean, in the beginning, I was like, no, it's fine. All the time, I was like, no, look at the lights. You need the right color balance. You need the right white balance. And then, I should say that he gave me some invites to some fashion shows where he had some spare invites so I could train my photography.
Yeah.
And that was really, really nice of him because I could go to shows where I was not working, but I could really train to get better faster. And it's a surreal world when you don't know anything about fashion. I didn't know anything about fashion. I know this hierarchy between them, and so you have the hierarchies like that. You have the street photographers who take people outside. Usually those are, they can be bloggers who don't work for a publication. They just work for their own blogs. Or sometimes it's some amateur photographer who enjoy photography. And they know that some models are going to come out with full makeup of the shows. So you have those photographers who gravitate around the fashion shows, and you have also paparazzi because some famous people are coming to the shows. So those are the photographers outside the shows. Then inside the show, you have the official Fashion Week photographers who are accredited and by invite only. And then when you climb up, you become a backstage photographer because you are witnessing the making of the clothes at the last second, and the fashion designer who's finishing his clothes on the model literally seconds before they send them to the show. And there's this high tension and adrenaline, and you see all the makeup artists who prepare 20, 30 girls or boys in in a minimum of time, and they do those
Yeah.
crazy makeups, and the lights have to be perfect, the cameras have to be in place. It's like, and it goes very quick. It's just 10 minutes. So yeah, it was a surreal experience. I really liked it.
It sounds very intimidating at first. I'm sure the more you do it, the easier it becomes, kind of just like practice almost. A lot of this stuff is new to me, especially the white balance. Is that something you you have like custom settings for? Now the auto white balance mode and all the, again, going back to the technology, is that something you just use, or you already know what your white balance should use? The white balance cards?
No, it's every show is a different setting, and every show has different lights. So you look at the lights, and you're supposed to know what type of light it is. But usually, I didn't know what type of light. So what we do is we test for a few seconds different white balance. We go like, I don't know, like 5,000, 4,000, 3,000. We change until we find which one is working. So usually we ask one of the photographers if he can stand in the one light where the model are going to walk, and then we test on them there to see if their skin color is correct, if the color of the clothes is correct. So we test this for a few seconds, and usually the Canon ones have a similar ones, and the Nikon ones have a similar one. So we give the value to each other, like, okay, today is 4,700. And then we give the tip to the other, and then you try, and if it works with your camera and your lens, then you keep that value. So that's the little help we give to each other with all the photographers. But every show is different, so you have to test every time. But that's the only place where I would use a white balance. Otherwise, in my personal project, I'm always often on auto. Really.
Okay. That's very interesting, and all of this is new to me. And like, I do want to know, what was your breakthrough moment on runway photography, where you just like everything kind of started to you started to understand it, and it just kind of was natural for you when you were making the photos?
Let me think about that. That's the thing. It's never natural, and there's never a moment. You sort of know what shutter speed works on your camera. You sort of know what aperture you want to get for a certain look. Like for the clothes on the runway, by safety, you go around 6.3, 7.1. But because every show is different, every show has a different decor, every show has different clothes, you're always learning somehow. I don't know if it makes sense. You can't just arrive and think, oh, I'm going to set up my camera like this and it's going to work. That's not how it works. So also in the subject of staying humble, I think camera is a passion. We need to learn and never stop learning. I have a side story if you want.
Yeah, of course.
My grandfather was also a photographer. And when he started to lose his sight when he was around 95 years old, maybe, or 90 years old, and he gave me his camera. And he told me, if I can't see anymore, I want my camera to keep on working for me. All right. So, but that's not the story. The story is 1 week before he passed away, I visited him. And I showed him my Canon EOS Mark II, which was my newest camera that I was using at Fashion Week. And I taught him how to use it. So that was a bit of a serious thing because he was playing down, but he was looking at my camera and touching the buttons and trying it. And he told me, you start to die when you stop learning. And he was still learning how to use a digital camera as he was 101 years old.
Yeah, wow. I like that quote. You start to die when you stop learning. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you for sharing that.
And actually, if you want to bounce back, there's a link with my profile photography.
Yeah, definitely take the link down and I'll share it in the show notes when I upload this.
No, I mean my profile picture. I told you earlier that I had a story about this. So
okay.
If you want
is that the story?
No, the story. So I don't know if my profile picture will be showing on the YouTube, but I will describe it for the people. It's a self-portrait of me in a mirror, where I have a camera in front of my right eye, and in front of my left eye I have the lens cap. So I look a bit like a cyborg. And I took this photograph. So that was 2 weeks before the story I told you about my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma passed away. So I took the picture at a few minutes before going to her funeral because I wanted to remember the feeling. So I come from this family where we shoot everything from birth to death.
Mm-hmm.
We document everything. And I wanted to remember the feeling that I was having at that moment. So I took this self-portrait, looking like a cyborg in a mirror with my cameras, and it has been my profile picture for the past 20 years. 25 years.
Yeah. So the profile photo, people will be able to see that. And now we have some context on it. So thank you for sharing that story. Sorry to hear about your family. It's always difficult to lose loved ones and family members, friends too.
It's okay. They were very old. My grandpa was 101 years old. That's quite incredible.
So I do want to introduce this really quick because you found me on Instagram, and then I in turn I started looking at because every time someone likes an image of mine and follows me, I always check to see if it's like a real account or if it's like a bot. So when I clicked on her profile, I have to say I've been doing photography podcasts and reading people's handles. Her Instagram handle that caught my attention is probably the most cleverest I've ever encountered to this day. So she gets a third award. So that's 3-in-1 recording. I want her to explain how she came across or kind of created the handle itself. And it's super clever. So please share your Instagram name, and I'll include the links as well.
Isn't that clever? So the name I chose is Fits Like a Glove, and Leica written as the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a pun on the brand because last summer a friend of mine gave me a Leica Deluxe 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this small automatic camera from Leica. It's not very good, but I'm having so much fun with it. So I started to shoot with it, and it started to give me the joy of photography that I sort of lost by working too much in photography. You know the feeling? So I just got this small Leica from a dear friend, and I wanted to have a funny Instagram handle. Also, I work in social media. That's one of my main jobs. So I wanted something that people would sort of remember or find funny. And so I appreciate that you found it intelligent and funny. And I tried a few puns. I wanted something like something, and I thought, okay, it fits like a glove because its camera fits in my hand and it fits like a glove. It's very natural to hold this little camera in my hand. So.
Yeah. And it's one of those play on words where everything, it fits so well, and the way it's spelled obviously is not but it's Leica the brand, and it's flawless. It flows, and I seen it, and I complimented her on the handle itself, and we started talking and exchanged some messages, and actually she agreed to be a guest here. But another weird thing was I just got the Leica Deluxe 8, and I was talking to a friend of mine about how well it performs, because you mentioned the Deluxe 4 doesn't do RAWs, and I started reading into the Deluxe line, and it, like, I believe it's the 7 or the 8 that they actually started doing RAWs. So either way, you mentioned really quick about like going into like the older model cameras, and you just kind of have like this fun using them. A few years ago, something similar, but it was a Leica Mini Lux Zoom, and it's actually based off of a Fujifilm camera. It's from like the early 2000s. It's it looks small, but when you hold it in your hand, it's probably about the size of your cell phone, and it's a weird shape. But I had so much fun using that, and I used it so much, and it was so old that it actually broke. So I tried looking everywhere for a replacement, and then I was like, well, now everything with the Leica brand is going up in cost. And I found some other ones, but I was like, do I spend this much money? And then the same thing happened where I use it twice and then it just breaks. So unfortunately, I can't fix it because they don't make the parts for it. But I had so much fun using it. It was the most weirdest camera I've owned, but it worked, and I had a lot of fun. So I'm sure I can kind of understand the feeling you have with your Deluxe 4.
Yeah. It's funny when it happens, because I worked a lot in music and in fashion, but when it becomes too much of a job, you don't. You do things a bit not automatically, but almost automatically. It's for commercial use. You don't enjoy as much. And what made the joy of photography was Fuji, because Fuji was so tiny and so light. So I got some Fuji X. I got an XT1 and then an XT20 later. So now I had the Fuji always in my bag. But the Deluxe is so tiny that I started 2 projects with it. I started the Fits Like a Glove, which is just the pictures. And I don't even rework the pictures. Like most of them, I just take them, and if they're good, I post them. I don't even overthink it. I'm just having fun with it.
Yeah.
And then there's one mode I really like on this camera. They have this black and white dynamic. It's a sort of preset, so where they push the whites and the blacks a lot. And that's my style of photography by default. That's the style I use all my life. So it's already there in the camera, and then if you take pictures with a flash of people, you get like some really cool results. And because I've been anonymous online all my life, I started to ask people I encounter, so it can be friends or people in the street or some famous people I work with at concerts, and I ask them to hide their face with their hands. So I just tell them this sentence. I tell them, I'm going to take your picture and I want you to hide your face with your hand. And then I let them interpret how they want to do it. And they're usually like, what? And then I repeat the sentence, just hide your face with your hand. And sometimes people hide it with one hand, with 2 hands, the hand upside down, the hand in different configurations. And I don't tell them what to do. I just tell them this one sentence. And I started another Instagram account called Selfie by Morgan, because of this camera, because it was always with me and it's so tiny, it's in my bag and it fits in my hand like a glove. So yeah. So what do you think about the Deluxe 8?
I think you want to talk technique. No, I don't mind talking about cameras and stuff. I do like it, but the camera itself performs really well. I'm not going to lie. It met and exceeded all my expectations for such a small, tiny camera. And I think the sensor size is like a micro 4/3, just to kind of give people an idea of how tiny it is. So if you were to compare, I normally use Leica M's, and then there's like the Q, which is a lower version of the M's. So the Q is a little smaller than the M, but the Deluxe is a lot smaller than the Q. It could fit perfectly in your hand. And it's so tiny, it's so light. And again, like same thing like you, just straight out of camera images. Cause I'm not like really trying to do anything to win a Pulitzer or some kind of photography award. So I use it for fun. And then I actually ended up liking it so much that like, I know how I take photos that I can use that camera without another. I can just walk around, travel with this one camera, and it will do everything that I need it to do.
Yeah. Mm.
But
yeah, that's interesting. Is it fast enough? Because like the Deluxe 4 is quite slow. You remember the old cams where you have to really anticipate the photo and be patient and know a few seconds before you shoot what you're going to shoot. Is it the same with the Deluxe 8?
I don't know much about the Deluxe 4. What I will say about the Deluxe 8 is I don't normally use zooms, and this lens is a zoom lens, so it goes from 24 to 75. But how I normally shoot is fast when I walk. So I wanted to kind of test the limits to see how it will match my shooting style. So I shot it on autofocus, and I also shot it on manual focus. And always single shot. I never put the drive on continuous because that's cheating for me. For anyone else who likes to use that, that's your own preference. But for me, I always use single shot. And I tested it with the autofocus, and I tested it with manual focus. In manual focus, it kind of reminds me of an M or Q, really. And then with the autofocus, it's actually pretty fast. But the zoom is a little slower because it's got to come in and all the way out. But typically, I kind of have an idea on like, okay, I'm going to shoot this wide or I'm going to shoot this zoomed in. So I'll set it before I actually start shooting just to kind of save time. So I've not had a problem with it.
Oh, that's nice. The Deluxe 4, when you put it on manual, usually you know what manual does. You know all the settings that you need to do, like pitching your shutter, your aperture, and everything. But the manual mode with the Deluxe 4, so I don't know if it's my camera because it's too old but it's very unreliable for me. It doesn't always work the way it should. So normally when you have a shutter speed at, I don't know, like let's say 200 of a second, you expect it to be very fast and to be consistent, but it's not consistent on the Deluxe 4.
So
like the aperture is not consistent.
It could be, from what I've researched into the cameras, was those older ones. I believe the 8 was the first Deluxe line that Leica actually designed for themselves. And basically from the 7 and lower, they just rebranded or rebadged, like I believe it was Panasonic cameras. But a lot of that company actually builds stuff for Leica anyway. So a lot of the stuff you see is just more rebranded Panasonic stuff.
Yeah, it was not a real Leica or Panasonic. But I mean, manual should work manual. You would expect it to be consistent when you want an aperture, and you expect it to be always the same, and you expect to get the same result. So what happens is you're in manual with your settings. You choose everything, your ISO, everything, but you take the same picture and you take the same picture 2 seconds after, and you have a totally different result. Oh, wow.
Okay.
And I never had that with any of my cameras. Like I had a few cameras in my life, but this one is, so I was shooting in automatic now.
There you go. So I'll send you some sample images that I did. And then basically it was just, I took the camera out by itself, no other one, because I usually carry like a film or a bigger M. And I wanted, again, I know if I had those, I would use those instead of the Deluxe 8. So I left those purposely and I went out and fast shooting. I haven't looked at all of my photos because I just got back from that trip. I'm still going through them. I'll send you some samples just to kind of give you an idea of, and you'll see, I'll see if the results are consistent, because I was just walking down like these drinking alleys down in Osaka. And again, just kind of like, I want to see if it shoots like an M. So I'll look at them and then I'll share some samples with you and you can kind of have an idea.
So how did you get into Leica, or are you into several brands and you don't really care about the brand, or?
I've shot every brand starting when I first started in photography. And basically my photography journey was, I started with Nikon when I bought my first camera, and I wanted the full frame, kind of going through that phase of I need better stuff. And I didn't understand why at the time. I just wanted it. Probably because I was the type of person who felt like the newest camera meant you were going to have better photos, but I didn't understand as a photographer the concept of learning and becoming better at that time. So I went from like Nikon, and then I went to Canon, and then the Canon was just too large and too heavy. So I went to Fujifilm because it was so tiny.
Yeah.
And then I got into Sony briefly. And then that's when I actually got into Leica. Started with film, and I just had so much fun and enjoyment shooting on the M3 and then later into M6 that I was like, this is where I feel most comfortable. I prefer rangefinders now. So I like,
okay, yeah.
I don't know when I start to focus on like a SLR, because I have a Pentax 6.7 and I look for the rangefinder patch. It's really weird. I'm like, and then I have to remember, like, when I'm focusing, this is what it's going to look like. It's not there. So yeah, I struggle with that all the time.
I think rangefinder is how I learned photography, because I was shooting with my grandpa's camera was the Olympus OM2. And I don't know what camera. My dad probably had some Canon SLR. So me, I switched to Canon because my dad had Canon and he had lenses that he gave me years later. So he was on EOS analog, and me, I went on digital straight away, but I could use his old lenses that he was not using anymore. So suddenly I had like those big 7 lenses that he had and that he used for his photography in Morocco and in the desert. And all his lenses were so trash in the way that he made them fall, and he really used them a lot, and they were scratched and everything. Not the glass, but you could tell that the lenses had some life, yeah. And so I still have them. So yeah, I switched to Canon because he was on Canon. It was also all my French photographer in Paris, concert photographer, were on Canon, and we tend to when we were at concert, we lent lenses to each other. Like if someone is a 50 millimeter or whatever we have, we just help each other like that. So it was a practical reason to get Canon. And then I also switched to Fuji after that because I wanted something light. Wow. I wanted to go back to having a little camera in my bag that I always have in my bag, and that makes me enjoy photography again. But yeah, the camera doesn't matter. I had some pictures printed in magazines that I took with my mobile phone. When I started actually fashion photography, I had an assignment from a magazine where they asked me specifically, and it was in 2012, so the phones were not taking such good pictures, but I had to be creative with it because they told me, okay, we need some behind the scenes taken with your mobile phone.
There you go. See, people, fashion professional photographers
with a mobile phone.
Mobile phone photography. I do want to say, when I was collecting film cameras, because I went through a phase in my life where I was just collecting them, really, that I learned the rangefinder system was actually so, they thought it was the best version of focusing, which I agree. It's super simple with the split image, that the back in those days, it was just SLR cameras. They actually started to create this range finder system with their focusing glasses where it was split. And to get where you wanted focus, you would just align it. So they actually had range finder style focusing on SLR cameras. Now a lot of them just kind of what you see is what you get focusing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a different way of photographing because you have to really think of what you're doing, and it's a totally different process. And I think it's a good thing to learn with that because it teaches you to anticipate your photo and to think about your focus and to think about your composition and everything. So me, if I had to advise someone to learn photography, I would tell them ideally learn with analog photographs, and then you have to wait for the development of your photos.
Yeah.
And it's a different way of thinking. And then after you get a digital camera if you want, but yeah.
You have to make the errors to become better. So I do want to say thank you. It's time to start wrapping this up. But before I do, I would like for you to highlight, recognize, recommend any photographer, fashion photographer, street photographer, portrait photographer, any artist, doesn't even have to be a photographer, any person that you feel who deserves recognition that does not get that recognition that they deserve.
Well, first one is not going to be a photographer, but a street artist. And his name is Essex Rockers, Howard from Essex Rockers. And he's the one who gave me his Leica and made me restart a full world of photography because of that. And I started 2 Instagram accounts. And I even did that's the funny thing about the Leica. I already had a professional photo shoot with it. And it's not good quality. It's like small pictures. It's just 10 MB and the camera was slow. But I was with this group and someone told me, what about we do a shoot right now? I was like, are you sure? Because an old DJI is a bit slow and the quality is not that good. And I was like, all right, let's do it. I didn't tell them that. I just went for it. So yeah, Howard from Essex Workers, shout out. And so that's a funny story about this fashion photographer who took me under his wing. His name is Alessandro Viero. He's from Milan, Italy. And you won't find him online. He's one of those photographers who's, according to me, one of the best photographers. You all know his images because you have seen his images in the magazines or in posters in the street, and you don't know that it's him. It's one of those photographers. He's so big in the fashion world that he doesn't have social media at all.
Wow.
He has a small private account for his family and his trips and that he shoots on his phone. But he's one of the best photographers out there, and he's the one who mentored me and always encouraging me. And even now, he's following all my pages that I create about photography. He's following all of them and still encouraging me to go on. So it's nice when you have a mentor in your life, in your photography life, who's always pushing you and encouraging you and supporting you. So Alessandro Viero, thank you for everything that you did for me. I'm very, very thankful and grateful.
Yeah. So,
actually, I have a little side story if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
When I started, when was it? When I moved to Paris, it was around 2000. I went to this event called the Techno Parade. So it's this big parade where they have some trucks with some DJs on them. And you have like 2 million people dancing in the street. So I went there, my small automatic camera, and no, actually it was my first small digital camera. And I got lost on the way out of the metro. I took the wrong hall, and I saw that there was this guy who was also going to the Techno Parade, and he was following me, so he got lost with me. And he was so sorry because he was following me, and I was running, and I seemed to know where I was going, but I didn't know. And he asked me, hey, do you know where the Techno Parade is? And I said, well, I'm going there, and I'm working on a track, so if you want, you can come with me. And he was like, "Oh yes, please, yes." So we did the event. Like we were on the truck. I made him go on the truck with me. Normally, you need to be accredited and everything, but I knew some DJs, so they let me in and they let him in. And he took he had so much fun. He loved the music, and we both had the same similar digital camera. So I think early 2000, you remember the type of camera back then. They were not the best, and a bit slow, and a bit. You had to really think about the picture you were taking.
Yeah.
So we were side by side, and we took pictures. But at the end, like a few days later, we exchanged our photos, and his photos were amazing, so dynamic, so beautiful, so. They were telling full stories, and the way he took his angles and stuff. And I showed him my pictures, and he told me, "You have the eye. You should become a photographer."
There you go.
And that's how I was like, "Wait a minute, hold on." And so his name is Wenqi. He's a Chinese photographer who lives in Paris. So yeah, also shout out to him, Wenqi, if you hear that. Thank you very much for telling me that I should become a photographer, because I became a photographer.
There you go.
Oh, I can't hear you anymore. Your voice is off again.
Wow.
Oh,
Right
no.
at the end.
Just at the end. I don't know if you're going to wrap this up or...
I'm going to type. I'm going to say. But I guess that's our cue. We've been having these difficulties all evening, so I apologize to Nadia and the fans, listeners, and supporters. But I'm going to say good night and thank you for listening. It's been a while since I've done these, and I'd like to continue. So please keep an eye out. I will be recording these as kind of like I was previously. So again, I appreciate all the fans, listeners, and supporters. I apologize that we lost our audio, but thank you very much. And to all the fans, listeners, and supporters who made it this far, thank you as well. And I hope to give you the best product that I can in the future. So thank you. Leica Street Photography Collective. This is Nadia, and I'm Ricky.
All right. I don't know if you can still hear me, but thank you, Ricky, for having me. And yeah, thank you so much. That was fun. We should do it again.
Yes, definitely.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.